All right, and we are back for episode 138 of Digital Divination.
Hey, everybody, I'm Ron Lundeen. I'm an employee of Wizards of the Coast, and the opinions I express here are mine and not theirs.
Wow, you did that perfect that time.
Standard disclaimer handled.
Nice.
I imagine you've got it written on a Post-it note, like right at the top left of your monitor.
That would be a
You
good
just
idea.
read it perfectly.
The amount of times I mess that up indicates that I, in fact, do not have that written anywhere and have to count on it in my own head.
In fact, the last two episodes, you made the same mistake in each of them. And it kind of freaked me out because when I did the first one, I said, okay. And then when I went to edit the last one, I thought, wait a second, am I editing the wrong one? He said the same thing last time. I realized, no.
It's weird that you mispronounced your own name twice in a row.
Oh, wow.
Yes. It just happens all the time.
Who even knows? No, I got it this time, though, so we can get on to the actual episode.
The actual episode. All right. So,
which means we got to ask about Coco, right?
Oh, Coco.
Coco's doing great. It's hot here, and so we're trying to keep her out of the heat as much as possible.
Good idea,
because she got a lot of fur. Yeah, we tried to give her a bath yesterday afternoon, and it didn't go super great because she got out of the tub, and then we were like, well, she still got shampoo on her, but we'll just let her outside and then hit her with the hose. And she was like, "Don't hit me with a hose!" and just tearing around, getting dirty again.
Yeah,
like classic, like dog sitcom or comedy movie experience.
Not used to having a big dog, so we got some things we have to.
Yeah, we don't give our dog baths. I mean, he'll get hosed down sometimes, or we'll get him trimmed, but we don't. He doesn't get
you take him to
he doesn't get very dirty. Well, we haven't for a while because he doesn't do well at grooming. He's old, and we usually brush out his coat. It comes out enough that we just brush out all the old dirty stuff. I guess I don't know. He's got a huge undercoat. So it's just.
Well, we were unable to give our dogs baths for years because we literally didn't have a bathtub. We just have 2 showers, but now we have a bath, and we have since bathed the dogs, and that's good for that. I don't know. We don't do it very often.
Wondering
we mostly
why
brush them out.
That big standalone bathtub. It's for your dogs. That's
it is for a lot of the members of the family and also for the dogs. But it's that's our bathroom. Our downstairs bathroom was so had this weird empty space to it. It's because they used to have this big clawfoot tub in there. But then they found the clawfoot tub was so heavy it was cracking the subflooring, so they moved it out and installed like this little dinky corner shower, leaving like sort of a weirdly sized bathroom. But now there's a tub in it. Everything's fine.
All right. And that is.
Well, this has been a great talk, everyone. Thanks for listening to.
I didn't even get into my chickens yet.
Dog-a-tub Divination.
Yes. Well, as of this weekend, it is 8 weeks to Gen Con.
That feels a lot closer than it ought to be.
It's getting there.
And Gen Con feels like a summer convention, and I feel like we're still kind of springtime. Today's been hot, but I think generally it feels spring, but Gen Con's summer.
Yes, technically it is still spring, but...
That's right. And technically correct is a kind of correct.
So, and, a lot of my games are like, for a variety of reasons, people are having to skip out because of summer stuff or Ron, or some of them are going on hiatus for a bit, or we're kind of waiting on new material. So I thought we could talk about, in the next 8 weeks, what Starfinder First Edition adventures would you like to play that would be fun to play between now and Gen Con, given that you only have 8 weeks and maybe you can't play every other week or every week. So, and I thought what we could do is each of us could talk about, maybe we'll do a top 3 and honorable mention. I know something like that. And maybe we can start with our honorable mention and go number 3, number 2, number 1. Think that'll work?
Honorable mention first, and then 3, 2, 1. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, just something like that.
Sure.
Okay. And you can have more than one honorable mention. I don't know. I don't know how you guys did your stuff. So
okay.
Does anybody want to go first? You want me to go first?
Why don't you go first?
Okay.
I have to sort my order.
Yeah, I know. I did. I just thought about this ordering just now. Okay. So I will go. I'll start with an honorable mention. And I'm thinking about the timeline, 8 weeks. And for me, I think you could either play every week or you could play every other week. So that's kind of one of the, so I'm looking at stuff I can get done in that amount of time. And I'm only going with adventures that I've actually run myself. So that's my criteria. You don't have to use that. So my honorable mention here, I'm going to say is to Defy the Dragon. It's a 10th level adventure where you have mechs. It's a really cool storyline. You could finish it in 8 weeks. Probably if you played 4 weeks so every other week of long nights or shorter nights across 8. So I think I think the playing time on that might be around 20 hours of actual playing time. That's my rough estimate from having gone through that. I thought it was kind of interesting how the introduction of mechs and how you got to play that, and the story is actually kind of cool as well.
Wow, that is, I didn't do anything like that. In that my choices are regardless of actual playtime. Some of them are downright unrealistic in playtime. And with the exception of my honorable mention, which I'll get to in a second, are ones that I haven't played and want to play, right? So I'll get to that.
That's
My
okay.
honorable mention is I would love to play Starfinder Society Scenario 604, Secrets Long Submerged by one John Godek III, because I got to do the playtest of that. And I haven't yet seen kind of how the final product turned out. And so my honorable mention is that I would play that to see how the final product turned out.
Okay.
That's my honorable mention.
Good.
I'm gonna talk a little bit about I've only played so many things, but I've had my fingers in a lot of adventures, so
Right.
I'm gonna go off a lot of that. But my honorable mention is gonna be Fly Free or Die number one, just number one. We're no heroes because it's a nice fun. It's got a fun starting point. It's got this sort of almost modularity that first volume that you could cut some stuff out if you're running out of time, or you can expand some stuff, and it's got some just sort of and from there to the end where I believe when you steal the spaceship at the end of that volume, that could just be the end of the quote unquote adventure and be like, okay, you go off and you do more stuff, right? You don't have to necessarily follow the whole story. I put that as my honorable mention because it does sort of the whole story is a nice little connected thing, and it would be nice to sort of see the repercussions of stealing that spaceship. But you could also
I thought about that. I that's the only book of that AP that I played. I had some bad experiences with some of my fellow players in that, and so that kind of colored my view of things a little bit.
I also did play it a little bit too, and we didn't finish it even. I don't think it was just sort of like life and all that.
Right.
So it would be fun.
You didn't finish the AP or didn't finish volume 1 of that AP.
We didn't finish volume 1.
That's really not finishing an AP then. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Do you want me to do my number 3, or does somebody else want to take over the order?
Oh,
sure.
You do it. Let's keep the same order.
Okay. All right. So my number 3 is the one-shot Band on the Run.
Okay.
And it's a relatively short adventure. I think it's about 3 to 4 hours. And I think, did Luis write that? I think it's a Luis.
Luis also wrote that one.
And it's just a fun, light little adventure, And so just in terms of running something, playing something that's kind of fun, getting involved in, kind of a music situation and stuff, I just really enjoyed that a lot. So I if you just had one,
John, I've forgotten about the one shots, to be perfectly honest. I just completely forgot that.
My number 1 is a one shot.
That's okay.
We'll get to that.
Well, there's only 2 of them exist for Starfinder, but I'd forgotten all about them.
Okay, well that's my number 3. I mean,
okay,
that's good.
So.
Yeah. So I was unrealistic in that 8 weeks. Sure, that's plenty of time to play an entire AP. As long because there are people like the Order of the Amber Die, they get together over a weekend and we'll play an entire adventure. So it's not incredible to think that if you were actually trying to get through an entire AP, especially one of the 3-part APs, that you might be able to do it in 8 weeks of kind of dedicated play to get it done. If there was
Well, you
something where you
could.
were like, I
You could.
really want to get this whole AP done before we switch over to Starfinder Second Edition, then you might be invested in doing that. I know very little about and have always wanted to play the Signal of Screams adventure path.
Yes.
I'm big into the
Yes.
horror and the body horror and stuff, and it's one of the earlier Starfinder adventure paths that I intentionally learned nothing about so that it wouldn't spoil anything as a player. I kind of couldn't help but learn some of the elements of it that are maybe a little bit spoilery, but that's kind of the
Hmm.
experience that I'd like to have, is that Signal of Screams. It's also, when I think about how Paizo has a tendency to take and compile past adventure paths into single volumes or something like that,
Right.
I think Signal of Screams is unlikely to get recompiled or updated for Starfinder Second Edition. It's kind of
Mhm.
a niche type of science fantasy horror crossover. It's a high level. It doesn't start you at level 1, so I think that kind of it's now get it or don't.
Right.
So I think in my last 8 weeks, I'd put Signal of Screams.
Yeah. I think Jason might actually
Stay
like
tuned.
that AP a little bit too.
I do like that AP. That was one of my first
Yeah.
ones that I was sort of wrote the outline
Yeah,
for
I played
and
through that
everything.
one,
Uh,
and
mm,
I think so each book of depending on the APs, but roughly, when we had gone through them, each book was about 15 hours. So that would be, in my estimation, about 45 hours, which if you had 8 weeks, if you played 6 hours once a week,
you
you could knock it out, I think. It's do or if you went a little faster. So,
I managed to, this is cheating though a little bit, play through run, I should say, Mummy's Mask in a very short, like a good 6 adventures, maybe 6 or 7 nights, because I converted it to Fate on a semi
oh,
on the fly. I use it as
yeah,
inspiration and sort of like didn't have to worry about every single
mhm.
encounter. Right, I just took the big set
right.
pieces of Mummy's Mask and ran that as a modern, a 1920s pulp adventure.
Well,
Um,
fun.
anyway, yeah, that was fun. But my number three, put this one at number three because I feel like I talk about it maybe a little too much, and I'm very biased because it is Junker's Delight.
Yes.
And I think that would be a fun
Yeah,
one to play again. Always, I had a blast being on the Strange Table Fellows playthrough of it. At the end, I came in as the big bad, and basically got to use a NPC stat block as my character sheet. And it's written for, because it's written for first time GMs. It probably takes a lot shorter amount of
right.
time to play for people who know what they're doing, can sort of blaze through it, I think, pretty quickly, even though it is kind of 3 levels.
Yeah, I think because I set my criteria for things I've actually run, that would have been one of
Hmm.
that if I didn't have that, I would have had on there. But since I've never run it, I thought, okay, I don't
Yeah,
know enough about it, and probably Jason will talk about it. So,
fair. Yeah, yeah, you got me.
all right, well, that's cool. Well, now number two, I'm going to go kind of similar to what Jason talked about with Fly Free or Die, but I'm going to go with Dead Sun's number one, Incident at
Hmm.
Absalon Station, because that's
Classic.
what got us started 8 years ago when we first started playing, and I really think that that book is probably one of the best written books of any AP for Starfinder at all, especially the first book in the AP. It's clear that a lot of work
Mhm.
and effort went into that because it came out with the launch. And it just covers so much ground for so many different flavors of Starfinder. It gives you such great broad exposure. And I have a friend whose name is Ark Riley. He was a venture lieutenant down in Portland. He slimmed that down. He would run it in 2 5-hour sessions at conventions.
Ooh,
So
Oh,
very
really?
streamlined. Yeah, he ran it like a
oh,
dozen
cool.
times
Yeah.
in, in that kind of short time. Now, I think that doesn't do great justice to it. I mean, I think if you had 15 or plus hours for it, but you could, that's something that I think very easily you could do in the 4 weeks. And it give me for me, it'd be a great throwback to all the stuff that was so hard the first time, running into the Akata, running into, ghosts and things. It's like, man, this is such a hard game. We're all gonna die.
Now,
Yes.
John, do you think you would run the original version of Absalom Station? That was a mumble fest incident at Absalom Station, or would you run the collected version in the Dead Sons,
The compiled
hardcover that
hardcover.
came out?
I would have to
The compiled
I would
hardcover
have to
because
do it in the hardcover
it has been a little tweaked.
because I have the hardcover now. That way I could say I've run that one too. So.
Yeah. It's a good reason to
Yes.
use it. Okay, because that has been I tweaked it a little bit. Some of the stuff that so it won't maybe isn't. I mean, most of it's super intact.
So
but,
the
like,
boss at
I
the
think
end of that book isn't going to like party wipe
it's a
everybody.
little- No, it might still might. It's just a touch easier now.
It's still the same creature, though, right?
Yeah, but I tweaked the stats
Okay.
of it a little
All right.
bit. just to
cut
be a
out the
little easier.
regen or what?
I don't remember
Okay.
exactly, but it's just basically just sort of like, when we were compiling it, it was just like, oh, everyone complains
It's
about that.
so
Let me just
hard. Yeah.
turn it down just to from 11 to 9.5, basically.
Oh, well, very good. Very good. All right.
Okay, my number 2. So I want to preface my number 2 by talking about the reason that I picked it. I've gotten kind of on this kick recently about getting into older adventures and finding the interesting story behind them. And some people kind of really jam on that. I've been running the Village of Hamlet for some people and being able to talk about sort of here's the origins of how the Village of Hamlet was written. I've got some of the old school remastered stuff. It's literally behind me on the shelf, like the old Castle Amber and what's the history of how it went into Castle Amber, and hearing about what went into the adventure that you're playing. And sometimes people are like, well, that's don't tell me about your character kind of thing, right? It's maybe of less interest. I find it very interesting at this day and age. And without a lot of experience with Starfinder Society, my number 2 unrealistically long choice would be the Scoured Stars Adventure Path.
I might have to do some editing
so long
here,
as
but
I got somebody who knew the
Ron is kind
Starfinder
of frozen and
Society
dropped off
behind
here.
it and was able to talk about here's how the
wasn't sure if
adventures
it was
connect
him
with
or
one
not.
No, it was
another.
him. Yeah, it
Here's
was
how
him.
they were originally
He'll be back
published,
here
et cetera,
in a
et cetera.
bit. Yeah. So we shall see. But for then, let's talk amongst
Great
ourselves.
pause.
Yeah. So
Okay, don't continue talking. Okay.
yeah.
One of my, I might say this when we come back on, but I was actually
let's just keep
thinking a little
talking.
bit
Yeah,
about
just keep
Sig-
going.
Signal of Screams being in my
Yeah.
list, at least the first one, like with the other one. But
Yeah, I was surprised that you didn't say that. Well, I thought maybe you could say it later. I didn't know. So
I was gonna, and then I realized there was another thing I wanted to say, so
oh.
I kind of switched it out
Yeah.
mentally, mainly because I think I would take, what I would do is take Signal of Screams and maybe run it as a first level
no!
adventure.
I hear you now.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So you were talking about the Village of Hamlet and the throwback there.
Oh, should I just pick up right from there?
Yeah, just go for it.
Okay.
Yes. You just
So I've been playing a lot of these adventures where the background and how they got built is kind of fun for me to hear. I'm running the Village of Hamlet and talking about how that was written and why that was written. I've got behind me on my shelf like the original games reincarnated Castle Amber and things like that. Keep on the Borderlands. With somebody who's not played a lot of Starfinder Society, my number 2 choice is going to be the Scoured Stars Adventure Path, but only if I can get it with somebody who knows the original sort of the adventures as they came out for organized play and will give me sort of a little academic rundown on each. Well, this one was released on such and such date, and here's what's changed in what you've played. That might not be everybody's jam, but I feel like it would give me a kind of an interesting sense of history of the adventure path as well as organized play that created it. That's my number 2.
Now I feel really bad.
Because you could have done that for me.
Well, because I was going to run that for our group, and because of reasons, we switched over to doing Cosmic Birthday. So
I don't regret it. I'm glad we did
yeah,
Cosmic Birthday. It's
me
really
too.
fun.
I think it was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, good. Number 2.
My number 2, I admit that I did a little switch out. I was gonna talk a little bit about Signal of Screams, at least the first adventure, because I think it kind of does a sort of a fun. It does the fun and spooky stuff, but I would probably think about maybe just actually taking it down to first level, and sort of revamping it so
Oh,
it isn't.
okay.
It's a little more scary. I was in a little bit of regret that it is a higher level adventure, because that makes it less scary. But it does some other fun stuff. That does a lot of good not cosmic horror exactly, but larger horror kind of stuff. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch it out again for another first volume of an AP that I think you can play all the way through, and then end it and not necessarily worry about the rest of the story. And that is Attack of the Swarm #1,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the Fate of the Fifth, because that is just a nice little war story. You protect the planet, and then you leave the planet, and it gets beaten by the bugs, and it's an escape, and you can just be like, and then the war continues, or something like that, and you get your big hero moments at the very end, but you don't necessarily save the day. And I really like how that's one of the things I really wanted to do with the Attack of the Swarm, is not necessarily have the players be able to save the
Right.
day at the beginning. They come back at the end, and as Ron knows,
yeah.
is you come back to that planet at the end and save it.
Yes. Well, good. All right. So for my number 1, I'm doing this a little differently. I played a lot of Starfinder Society, especially early on. I played all of seasons 1, 2, and 3, and then season 4 I kind of did less, 5 less, 6 less, 7 less. So because these are relatively short, I'm actually going to pick 3 Starfinder Society scenarios I think that are a lot of fun. That would be fun to go back and play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's kind of what I'm doing there. So the first one, and these aren't in order that I think I would want to do them, right? 2 of them, and then one is got some spoilers. So the first one is Starfinder season 2, 01, the first one in season 2, Pack World Warriors by Jenny Jarzabski, where basically you do like it's like an American Ninja contest, but with Starfinder,
Oh.
and that was just a lot of fun to play. And I first played it run by Jenny at SkullCon, and so that was a lot of fun to have that. So that's kind of one there, and I think that was before she joined Starfinder team as well. So it was relatively early on. The second one, and
Makes
just
sense.
because it's kind of fun, and some of these are going to have some spoilers. I apologize if you don't want to hear spoilers about these. Tune out here for a second. The
And
second
then
one is,
maybe listening to us talk about why we like these favorite adventures is maybe a
oh,
something
yeah,
you tuned into. So
I know.
yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
the next one is season 1, 20, and it's the Duskmire Accord, where basically you go back to Salvation's End, which is this false moon with a whole bunch of vaults where different like experiments are going on with different creatures. And in this particular one, I don't know if you guys know anything about this, but there's a small village of Yetis that are all they do all day is laying around smelling this kind of narcotic gas seeping up from the fissures, and there's a boon that you get out of it, which basically says before any adventure you go in, you can party with the Yetis, and you gain a temporary bonus to one of your ability scores for things. And so and the whole adventure is really really cool. And this is there's like some warring parties in here. There's Yetis, there's gnolls, and then there's a unicorn with a grenade launcher for its horn.
That's where the
Yeah.
unicorn
Yes,
comes from.
and that is
Right.
like, and that is
Yeah.
like so cool. The whole thing, and I don't remember who wrote this one. It was like one of my favorite ones. I've run it a bunch of times for people, and I've played it, and it's just a fun one to play. Brian Duckwitz. I actually don't know who that is.
Hmm.
Uh,
Cool.
Yeah.
and then the last one, and this one's got spoilers, so if you really don't want to have spoilers for a real recent one, don't listen from this one for like 2 minutes. Okay. I'll just so you know. So this is the very last scenario of Starfinder First Edition, 7-14 Final Assessment. One of the cool things about this is there are tons of throwbacks to all kinds of previous Starfinder Society adventures. I haven't gone through and thought about it, but I'm thinking that they have a throwback for each of the seasons in there. So it's kind of neat. And at the very end, they have a big throwback to the end of season 2, I think. Maybe it is. I don't remember now. And there's a choice that you have to make. And this is for characters 11 to 14. So in my group, I had a bunch of people that I had GM'd for and played with for 7 years in my party, including one of them. The GM was one who started playing Starfinder with me at Zulus, is now the venture captain of Seattle, and is a 5 Nova and 5 Glyph GM. She's probably one of the most accomplished organized play people out there. Jocelyn Hamilton, she's awesome. And then several of the other players who got started playing, at my table. So it was a lot of fun to kind of come to closure with it. Anyway, so we bring in our final characters, and with the balance of, my first character was an operative, but we had 2 other people that were playing operative. So I decided to play my Vanguard, who I also had played through Devastation Arc, Leroy Jenkins, right? So I played my Vanguard in there because we needed somebody in there. So at the end, when you've kind of defeat the final boss and you're kind of doing stuff, there's a choice you make. And this is the big spoiler thing. If you don't want to hear it, then don't listen for 30 seconds. You get the choice of whether or not you want to ascend into become part of this godhood of this deity that you help save. And so if you do, and one of my party didn't choose to do this, but the others did, you get a special boon, and it gets loaded on the Paizo site, and you don't even know what it is until you check it. And so after I did all this, like 3 or 4 days later, I thought, I wonder what that boon actually is. So I go and check the boon, and basically it says that if you've chosen to kind of ascend into, become a godlike person, you can afterwards, any character that you create in Starfinder First Edition or Second Edition can worship that deity, and all the specs that you have for deities, in terms of anthemas and all this kind of things, you get to spell all that stuff out. And I'm like, this is so cool. All my Starfinder Second Edition characters are now going to worship Leroy Jenkins. And I'm going to build out some really cool things.
But did you get chicken?
At least I got chicken. Well, Leroy was a chef. That was his profession. He was really good at making chicken.
Good.
So that was, again, so that combination, but that's a fun one. If you haven't played it, you should play it. And it's fun, even if you get a little spoiler here at the end. So, all right. That's my number one, those adventures.
All right. Oh, my number one. So here was my thinking. I thought, if this is it, right? This is my last opportunity to play anything Starfinder First Edition ever. And after I play this one thing, I have to take all my Starfinder First Edition books, and I've got to put them in a bonfire and never touch or think about them again. What's the one thing that I maybe regret the most?
Was that the rule?
In fact, it is the rule. Come Gen Con, that's the rule.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it won't be available. It will delete everything off of your hard drive, and yeah, it's all gone. Can't download it from your Paizo account. That's it. But the one thing, and I've had a lot of Starfinder that I've played and enjoyed. I've written adventures for, I want to say, half of the 13 or so Starfinder APs. I played all the way through, I want to say 5 of them. It's been great. Now, I mentioned earlier, this is one of the one-shots. I was in error. I lied. It's not. But the one thing that I have never played and kind of regretted it because it's something of a classic and it'd be the last thing I want to play to round out Starfinder First Edition would be Junker's Delight. Never played it. Hear really good things
All
about it.
right.
I've told that it's fun not just in like the way that Signal of Screams is maybe fun in linear ways, right? And that it's the sort of sci-fi horror aspect. The Junker's Delight is the standalone adventure that's sort of fun in lots of ways. And I haven't been able to experience yet. So that's my number one.
Cool.
It was also Jason's number
Awesome.
3, so you got it twice now.
Yeah,
Our
you got it
first
in there.
repeat.
I guess go get it. Yeah. Like John, I'm going to cheat a little bit with my number one and basically say all the free RPG Day adventures.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Those are quick.
Yeah.
They're small. You could get through all of them, even the ones that aren't the Skitter one. I mean, I think there's only one that's not a Skitter
Right.
one,
Right.
but
right.
play through them. It tells a bit of a not necessarily a coherent story narrative between them, but it has recurring characters, right? The Skittermander ones, anyway.
There's 3, is
You can
that
play
right?
through and I don't know, it might be
Okay.
4. And then there's Operation Seaside Park, which is a sort of a different beast, but is still also fun because it's also swarm based and has some cool stuff happening. So I would also play that too. But like just all the free RPG Day adventures.
Yeah. So there's what's it?
Let's see if I can remember them.
Skitter
Skitter Shot,
Shot.
Skitter Crash, Skitter Home, and Skitter
Yep,
Warp. Yeah,
there's
there's 4.
Okay.
And Skitter Home is technically 2 adventures in one.
And you're right; those are all relatively short. In that bill.
Yeah, they're meant to be done in a
Yeah,
session.
I
Basically,
I
so.
thought about that, and I'll say that I didn't like the first one as much, and so I didn't want to.
The first one is a little rough.
Yeah.
Will admit it. And just because we are still sort of finding our feet, and I still was finding my feet as an adventure writer, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that one's a little rough. So I
I thought
would
about them. Yeah.
make that better, and then run the
Okay.
rest of them.
Maybe compile them all in a book.
Maybe.
And then have somebody who runs it talk
Maybe.
about what they were like when they were independent.
Yes. Yes. Fun. Well, that's good. I think that's interesting that there's only one overlap there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
There's like one. I would say 1.5 because I was thinking about Signal Screams a little bit, and then I switched it up.
yeah, I knew that's one that you were interested in. So you really liked it when it came out and everything when you were doing that. All right. Well, so that's a lot to chew on. I want to, Jason and I were talking about this briefly. I want to bring up though, something that was announced not that long ago, but Owlcat,
Day or two. ago,
Owlcat Games is making a new sci-fi game, The Expanse, Osiris Reborn. And I know, Ron, you've read a bunch of the Expanse books, right?
I've not read one word of any of the Expanse books, but I've watched the entire series with a great deal of joy. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I watched the series, and then when the series ended, I read the books that kind of followed up from there, or I did the audiobooks, I guess. I read one and did some. Yeah, I like that. Have you seen this at all? The ads for this one, Ron?
No, I just had somebody mention it sort of in passing earlier today. It's the first I'd heard of it. I hadn't seen the ads at all.
Yeah, they have like a little clip in there, trailer for it, and that's where I think maybe the trailer came out recently. And
yeah, it did. Yeah, it's an action RPG.
Right.
It looks like
third person,
so it's
third
like
person,
a little bit like third person. I think I heard a couple people say it's a little bit like, was it Mass Effect 2 had that kind of like shooting, a lot more shooting than the first one, and had like tactical kind of like Gears of War, getting behind cover and taking shots and stuff like that.
But the story that it kind of alludes to looks really cool. So I think it starts off at not Eros Station, but like one of the moons around that was around Eros or something. So I don't know if you remember from the series at all, but it's like kind of one of the first times when they encounter the proto-molecule on a large scale, and at the end of the trailer, it kind of shows this horrific proto-molecule thing with a bunch of people and stuff. So
Oh,
Yeah, so I thought it's going to be like space horror and creepy, and I know you like that
well,
stuff.
now
Yeah.
I'm interested.
So,
There you go.
I have
There
no
you
idea when
go.
it comes, but
Yeah, I mean, I think they just had like that's a teaser
yeah.
trailer, so it's going to be at least a
Yeah.
year till that comes out. I'm personally maybe a little more interested in Super Meat Boy 3D.
What?
That's coming out this year, I think. Have you ever heard of Super Meat Boy? They've made a 3D version.
Oh, now I got to
Okay,
Google
They're
this.
making one.
Wait,
you've
no,
got all
I'm
these
not going
great
to go.
suggestions. What was the puzzle one? Blueprints,
Blueprints.
yeah.
Blueprints. Yes, I'm still playing that, by the way, and it's still. I mean, I haven't touched it in a couple days, but because every time I sit down, I have to play it for at least an hour straight. Otherwise, I don't get anything. But yeah,
I don't understand this Super
Big
Meat Boy
Rex.
3D. He looks like a fire hydrant. He's going around.
He's a little
Yeah,
meat guy.
I guess.
And there's an old platformer, and not old. It's a come from a few
Yeah.
years ago for sure. A little pixel
Yeah.
platformer, but you have to be really precise in all the screens, otherwise you die a bunch. And this now they're just making a 3D
Okay.
version of more
All right.
blades and stuff. Like your girlfriend is a band-aid and she gets kidnapped by Dr. Fetus. I don't know. It makes no
Yeah.
sense.
I was trying to stay with the sci-fi genre, and I really love The Expanse in terms of
Hey,
high
what do you
science.
think of a cube of meat walking around, jumping around platforms? Isn't science fiction for you enough for you?
What other genre would it be? Frankly,
Well,
that's
not me.
Exactly. It's not real.
I don't know. I don't understand. That's it's like I don't understand genre. That's
it's okay to not understand.
yeah.
It's a
That's
video
okay.
game. It's a
Yeah,
video
yeah,
game
no,
genre
that's
of
fine.
video game,
That's fine.
basically.
Well, this is fun. What do you guys want to talk about next time?
Gosh, I don't know.
Yeah, because we have 8 weeks before Gen Con, which means we need to come up with
Next time will be the 6 weeks before Gen Con.
yeah, we need at least 3 more
Yeah.
And then the
topics.
4 weeks. Wait a minute, are we gonna be at is it gonna be Gen Con weekend when we've got a show due?
Oh, I'm
I
sure.
have to count through the weeks.
We're doing a Gen Con in Jason's room.
It might be.
That's what Jason said.
Oh,
He's not
okay.
leaving
All
his
right.
room.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
depending on the time, I should be free.
Alrighty, I'll be there.
I can I actually have a digital recorder that I used to bring to conventions to do audio podcasts. So
Let's just meet and do the podcast, but not record it.
oh yeah, that would be fun too.
And then just tell
Tell about
everybody
it.
But then reference it the next
So what you're saying
week,
is we should just go hang out as friends.
And
I mean, we
I'm
can do
totally
that
down
too,
with
but we
that.
should also do a podcast while we're
Every time I
there.
meet with friends, it's framed as a podcast. So
that's
Okay.
good.
All right. That's weird, but all right.
Okay. All right. Well, gentlemen, again, thank you so much for coming out and participating.
That was great.
It's great to see you because all my games are getting
Thank you.
canceled or postponed, and so my playing games is
They'll come back. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
Everything
so
comes around
come back.
again.
okay.
Time is a flat circle.
Time is a
or
flat
something.
circle indeed.
Well, I'm John.
And I'm Ron.
And I'm Jason, and this has been Digital Divination.